That being said, a cone is used for cutting only. Do not try to engrave with the cone. If you engrave with the cone, most likely what's going to happen, because it's so close to the surface material, it will build up a lot of junk on it, and then the laser can't pass through, and then it will start to burn that debris. Smoke may get up in there, or there's adverse effects. You blow out an optic, chain reaction, you blow out the number 3 mirror. Again, you're spending another $400, $500 on replacing optics. So when you're cutting, that's the only time you want to use a cone. The use of the cone is for a couple of things. One, it does keep the optics clean. But number two, depending on the application and the material that you're using it with, it will reduce the flame, but it will also enable for a cleaner cut. So in a sense, it's cooling that edge down to where it's not going to allow that laser to heat it up to a certain temperature to cause it to burn. You may find that browning of wood will occur because that may burn. The only time that you'll have a negative effect is when you're cutting acrylic. And if it's thicker acrylic, what will happen is as the laser comes down to a focal point, it starts off at a certain thickness. So there's an edge curve to all of your cuts. So what's going to happen is on the out, so say you cut out a square, each side should fall in, so where the top footprint is going to be smaller than the bottom footprint of that material. That does change per thickness of material. So thicker material, the thicker the deeper the curve is. There are other options. We do have a 3.0 lens, which will give you a higher focal length, a longer focal length. With that longer focal length, that will take your edge curve from this and reduce it down to this. Everything comes out at the same thickness. It's just when it comes down to that focal point, you now have a longer focal area to where it's going to stretch that V down to a narrower edge. So if you're cutting half-inch acrylic with a 2-inch lens, you're going to end up with a pretty hefty edge curve to it. If you get a longer focal length, it'll tighten that up and give you a more vertical edge to it. That being said as well, with certain acrylics, especially with thicker acrylics, it's when it vaporizes it, that edge is hot. So when you get close to a certain point, if your air pressure is high, it may actually frost that edge versus give it a gloss. If you see, I like to refer to it as coining, but if you look at the edge and it looks like pulsing or like the edge of a quarter, then what you need to do is slow it down or increase the PPI to give you a more even cut for a glossier edge. You will always find some sort of irregularity along that edge. It's not going to make it 100% glossy and crystal clear like a routed edge would. So if you were cutting acrylic with a router, you're going to end up, even with that, you're going to end up with tooling marks, unless if you sand it and flame it. With the laser, you will get a natural flamed edge to it, but you will also see some of that stepping to it. So there's negative effects to certain applications.